There we are. We're live.
What?
I know, right? And the funny thing, too, is, like, people expect it to be, like, so dramatic and stuff. I mean, to be fair, I don't... Because you have intro music for your show and stuff, and I'm just like, that's pretty cool. I want to do that. And then when I get to it, I'm just like, nah, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I get you. And my intro for my show, Doug made it from the box. He, like, whipped it up for me and, like, gave me the whole intro.
Nice.
He sings on it. It was, as soon as he gave it to me, I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Those are always so cool, too, when you just get help from your fellow artists that are around you and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog is making so much noise right now. I have no idea what's going on. Everybody, you guys are awesome. Give me 1 second just to see what's going on. Sarah, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell everybody about you and what we're about. Well, I want to have a couple questions, too, I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, sure.
Let everybody know.
I'll vamp while you're checking on the puppy. Don't worry
why
about
does this have to happen?
It's okay. That's the best part about puppies. Hey, everybody. I am Sarah Kennedy. I am a comedian here in Albuquerque. I've been doing comedy for, like, almost 12 years. I guess it'll be 12 years in August. And I started in Albuquerque. I lived in New York. I moved back from New York right before COVID hit. And I've been in Albuquerque ever since. And I have multiple podcasts and projects and stuff that I do all over. And I have a website you can go check out called sarahkcomedy.com. Just keeping it easy. SARAHK comedy.com. You're back.
What's up, guys? I'm sorry about that. Oh,
good.
man. You don't have no idea how many times I've have to done that, like, for going live. Like, hey, let's go live. Nothing's going to happen while you're going live. Everything happens wrong when you go live. But Sarah Kennedy, everybody.
Hey, hi.
Sarah.
Yeah.
So I met you through the comedy scene. You're a comedian. You've been doing it for quite a while, though.
Yeah.
Tell me more about, like, how long you've been doing it. You have, what I like to put in the description, some street cred. So tell us more about all the stuff that you've done, and as we go along, I will stop you and interrupt and ask more questions.
That sounds good. So I started comedy in August of 2009, and I did it at this bar that is on the west side that's now a dentist office. And that's always what comedy is here in Albuquerque. We just find these spots that let us do it, and they either get too big and they don't want us anymore, or they go out of business. And so
There's only two roads. That's it.
From what I mean, up until recently, which is what I think is so interesting, and some of the stuff I want to talk with you about too. About like, there's been such a level up of everything that's happened in the comedy scene here. Even though people have always worked hard and we just have more like business support, or people want comedy in a different way than they ever did before I moved to New York, and I think that that's very exciting and cool. But anyway, I started, and then I did shows. I produced shows with Sammy Mowry, and they're in LA now, and we did them at the Box late night on Saturdays, and I performed like all over the region and would do like one-nighters in Amarillo and Denver and all kinds of places. And then I moved to New York, and when I was in New York, I performed all over. I performed at Caroline's and Gotham and Broadway and all these other comedy clubs, and QED and The Creek and the Cave and like all these places. And I got to be on the Today Show, and I was on Sirius XM, and I did a thing for MTV, and then I moved back here, and I also had a podcast about Taylor Swift that did pretty all right for a while, and
Interesting.
and then I moved back here, and during COVID, I did an internet show, not like this. This is something that people aspire to have. But I just did basically kind of a little, like a Zoom. And I tried to connect local comedians with New York comedians, or introduce New York comedians to the idea of coming to New Mexico.
Nice. Because I remember the episode I did with you was a comedian from Colorado, I think so.
Yeah, I think, did you have... Oh, you had Kate.
Yes. Kate.
Yeah, so like that kind of thing of like connecting everybody and making sure that, you know, even though we can't be out and about the way we used to, there's can still be stuff that we're building toward or making and that kind of stuff. And so that was cool. And then now I'm working on this podcast just kind of secretly on my own, where I'm just collecting all these interviews, and eventually I'm going to put it out.
Interesting.
And it's just about why we don't have a comedy club here and what it would take for us to have one.
Is it really that difficult for us to have one here?
Apparently.
Because like, after unfortunately I'm barely like 2 years into this, maybe like a year and a half, the COVID and whatever. I started in September of 2019, and then learning about everything that like there's so much to the comedy world that I didn't know, but actually is very relatable kind of to the music world, because I did play in a few bands before, and kind of the whole local scene thing where it's like bring your shows and have people come and see you and like selling tickets, and the way that stuff works. I kind of love how it translates as well to to comedy. But hearing about there was one failed attempt of a comedy club. Wasn't there another one? Laughs, right?
Well, so Laughs was a successful attempt at a comedy club. We had it for 12 years. It was open, and everybody still to this day, and it closed before I started comedy.
Oh, okay.
But everybody still is like, well, isn't there Laughs, or why don't you guys go to Laughs or whatever? And we're like, it closed longer than your children have been alive. Like, it's been so long since it closed. And in the meantime, Danger Veros and Jason Green had a private club that they were doing for a little while downtown, and then the Comedy Vault was set to open, and then due to quite a few problems, that it did never open really. I guess maybe it had a couple shows, but people were like protesting outside of it, and it had like a really rough time. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm interviewing for this podcast about. Like, I interviewed Danger and Jason about their thing. I interviewed Greg and Genevieve Mueller about their house shows that they used to do, and how come Albuquerque's pretty okay with house shows. And it's exactly what you were talking about, where it's pretty closely tied to the music scene here and the DIY sense of a lot of what living in Albuquerque is.
Building your community and the people that like your stuff. I mean, because a lot of the like musicians, when I was going and being with a band and stuff, we kind of like promoted ourselves, and they would come to our shows, and if they liked us, obviously they'd come to another show, but if they didn't, they'd just be like, oh well, but it was that promotion and letting other people know, well, we're not the only band that's working here as well either, and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's all that. But
I don't know. I always now that I've started comedy and stuff, I'm always like dreaming about it. It's like, how is there not a comedy club here and stuff? Like, it seems so doable and stuff. Like, I even passed by certain like areas, and I'm just like, this would be perfect comedy club.
I mean, that's the conversation we've all had forever. Like, where would you put one? Like, where's a place that you're like, that would be good?
You know that location that's right where that old strip club used to be, the Spearmint Rhino? I think that'd be an awesome comedy club.
Great. Oh my gosh, and everybody passing on the freeway.
Yeah, it looks great too. Has like multiple levels, so it could have like this like really like dingy room where you're still kind of like developing, because it doesn't have a big enough stage, but yet still you can go on the main stage. Kind of like the idea of like the Comedy Store and stuff like that. But there's multiple comedy places that are like that, right?
Yeah, so that's why I always call it the Chuck E. Cheese model, because a long time ago at Chuck E. Cheese, they had like a bar with a little stage, and it just had one animatronic, like Elvis lion, and he scared the shit out of me when I was little. And then you'd go into the main room, and it would be Chuck E. Cheese and the whole band or whatever.
Yeah. And
I was like, a comedy club should have the Chuck E. Cheese room, but it should also have like kind of like a single stage little, try it out, get it, and then maybe work your way to the main stage kind of space. And I will also say, one of my favorite places to perform in the country is this club called The O in Tucson. And it used to be a strip club.
Oh.
And they still have like all the stuff and the little individual baby stages and stuff. Nobody performs on those, but they're
there.
You can tell. Like, and I love that. I think it's kind of, because it kind of speaks back to like when Lenny Bruce did comedy. He would do it in like strip clubs all the time, because they would give him stage time and they wouldn't give him crap about what he wanted to say, and comedy kind of came up that way. And
that's so cool too, like finding out how comedy is actually made in like a non-comedy town. Like, hey, can I just put up a speaker at like this coffee shop and do comedy here tonight? And if they approve and they like it, if it could draw a crowd, they actually go with it. So that's pretty cool to see how that builds on itself too, because it actually helps promote maybe local businesses as well that are kind of small, that are just starting up, and they're just like, well, we don't have any main attractions, comedy, obviously.
Yeah. Which
is pretty cool. But there's a lot of different avenues as well that I've seen that you and Royal kind of gotten into with the whole karaoke open mic thing.
Yeah.
Because this is how my take from it is, like, there is a select amount of comedy out there, very handful if we're even guessing. but there is a very, very select bunch that love music and singing. And the fact that you mix the two kind of gives that opportunity for people like me, who I'm just like, hey, I would love to do 5 minutes of stage time with 25 people listed to sing. But it's amazing because where else can you do that without actually feeling it weird, where it's like, oh, we did comedy, but we only have 3 people show up and we have to stop the show. Like, how can we keep this going?
They used to do, and they might still, or maybe COVID kind of changed it, but Brickyard Pizza used to do a music open mic. But the guy was always so cool about letting comedians go. And then he would give you 15 minutes because that's how long he gave the musicians.
Wow.
And so if you really, nobody was listening to you. And then sometimes you could kind of get everybody to kind of get on board.
A couple of sets, yeah.
But, like, if you just wanted time and you just wanted to, like, say something out loud, that was a great place to do it.
I remember doing a couple open mics there too, but that's when I kind of was just doing my music stuff at that time. But every time I'd went, there was just music all the time. So there was that ambition of open mic didn't really fascinate me, that there was a variety show there. There should be a variety show, but mostly open mic meant, hey, come show your musical talent. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So me and Mallory, when we were still producing together, we had a show. There's this brewery that doesn't exist anymore, but it's called Broken Bottle. And we made sure that it was advertised as like a mixed open mic. Like, come, we don't have anything to plug you into. It better be an acoustic guitar. But it was a real little brewery. So like you didn't need much. And so people would come and sing. There was a lot of wagon wheel. People sang wagon wheel every time. And then then people would do poetry, and people would just kind of goof around and do little bits that they were trying out that weren't just like a set. Like, I think I did one the entire time in like a Spider-Man mask that I just had in my car.
Oh my God. I want to go get my Spider-Man mask now.
But yeah, like that kind of stuff. And it was just that was a cool place to do it too. But I like hosting at Sidewinders because, well, first off, Renee and Michael are very sweet, amazing people that really support Albuquerque, business in Albuquerque, queer people in Albuquerque. But then they also just really, he was the first person to reach out to me and Royal and be like, hey, do you guys want to do comedy? We're trying to do something here in this new cabaret room, and we're still going to wear masks on stage because it's still like we're still eking into being open, but
let's get something going.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing of
that. Yeah, and they pay very fairly, and it's just everything about it is like a perfect storm for me. It's my favorite way to spend a Wednesday night is just to go and just kind of be like,
let's have some
yay,
fun.
Come on, yeah.
It's fun too, cause like this Wednesday too is like not very small crowd, right? But I got heckled so bad, and I'm just like, oh my God! Right now, out of all places, I'm getting heckled this bad. It was fun though, because it's one of those experiences where just like you have to go through as a comedian, I assume. Like, again, I'm only a year and a half into this, so there's still so much I'm learning and developing and understanding. Different aspects of comedians telling me different things, too, where I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, I don't know what to listen to. You guys are all coming at me. But it's great to take all of their input and then, like, kind of weed out and choose what's best for me. Because one of my things is, like, I feel like taking a guitar on stage is a gimmick. I don't want to do it.
We should try it.
But I'm so good at guitar. Like, so good. And then, like, there's other musicians or other entertainers. Like, I was talking to Cody Dove, and he said, like, as long as you're entertaining those people, whatever you do, just do it.
Yeah.
But then there's those other comedians like, it's a pure art form. You should be up there trying to sell the jokes. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do.
You should try. The best part about it is it doesn't, when you're up there, it's you. You are deciding what is or is not comedy at that very moment. You and the crowd. The crowd will ultimately be like, boo, whoa, or yay. And so, I wrote a song one time and I had a guitar and I would take it on stage. I've done things where I draw like Dimitri Martin. I've done like impressions that are very bad. And like whatever. You just have to try as many, because what if you find one that like is just like a home run that you've been like hiding away from because of what other people said. We only get like 5 minutes at a time. The best thing you could do is try something crazy in that 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. Especially like stuff like open mics and stuff. Yeah. That's what those are there for, right? To develop stuff like that. But it makes me feel weird too, because like if I were to take the guitar on Wednesday, and there was those 4 to 5 people that were there, and it
Blow
killed.
their faces off.
Yeah, it killed. I would have this weird impression that when I do it at another location, it didn't do so well or doesn't do so well, and that's happened a few times too, where I don't want to blame the crowd, but it kind of is like this crowd is more into like a aspiratic, let me get into this kind of stuff right away, and then this other sense is like, well, I mean, you don't even feel like you're confident in yourself, so I don't even want to listen to you. But it depends if they're there for comedy. I've seen that difference too, where it's like an actual show where people paid to go see it.
They're like, yay.
They'll laugh at a lot of stuff. I'm just like, wow, that's great. Because they're kind of more open-minded compared to like an open mic where it's just like,
You have to fight for everybody to just even look at you sometimes.
and if they even like it too, they'll judge you by the way you look first on stage. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Again, it's so great to learn and develop this, and you've been doing this so long. Like, oh God, what are little like techniques over the years that you feel have like developed your style now? Because obviously, you like every comedian that I've heard of, they just go like, I copied this person, or I was kind of like this person for a while, and then you developed into yourself, whoever this comedian is now. Like, how did you get into that role?
So the reason I started comedy was because I met Matt Peterson, and Matt Peterson was this amazing comic, and he'll perform sometime. I think he's performing on Kurt's anniversary show here in a couple weeks or whatever. He's so funny, and he was so good on stage and had been doing it and really like hustling. And I remember I watched my first set was taped and put on YouTube, which I would never recommend somebody do that ever. But it's still there and you can still find it. But then I watch that sometimes, and I'm like, I'm literally just doing Matt, because Matt was the only comic that I knew.
Okay.
And so I was like, I guess this is comedy. You just act like Matt. And then eventually, I was already doing like, I was like a corporate trainer, so I taught orientation at Dion's for like years and years before I did comedy. So I was up in front of people, pretty comfy about that, doing
Public
my own
speaking.
thing. Yeah. So kind of getting back to that part of it made it a little bit easier. And then, well, I always think the best thing you can do when you start comedy is to watch as much comedy as humanly possible, but now watch it from the view of a person who's doing it and not just a person who is
Enjoying
a fan.
it,
Yeah. And so then I just I read every book I could get on Amazon. Sorry, I sent Jeff Bezos to space. And then I watched every special I could think of. I got all the like Comedy Central roasts and that kind of stuff just to learn that style of things. And I always used to think that I was a lot like old Ellen stuff, like where she was just kind of like friendly and welcoming or whatever, and now she's a monster, so that one's out. And then like
The developing process.
yes, exactly. And then I really think Tig Notaro and Maria Bamford are my two favorite comedians currently doing stuff always. And the way that Tig pauses and uses silence so deliberately is something that you almost never see comics do on stage. And so it's one of my favorite things to just like hold silence and make eye contact with everybody in the room so that it's like
really personal.
this is happening. Like this is happening, and the silence is intentional, and the stuff I'm saying is now extra intentional because you know that I'm not afraid of taking pauses. And so I think that those are my two like my favorite like little tools that I like to use. But other than that, I just try to talk about stuff that's happening.
So even as long as you've been doing it, you still, it's safe to say, are still learning?
Oh, it's never gonna finish. And when comedians show up and try to like talk tough about how long they've been doing comedy and like all that, or what they've accomplished, I'm always like, that doesn't.
The moment is what matters.
Yeah, exactly. There's people who like Bill Burr is still learning stuff. Like that's not. It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
I know Chris Hardwick is a kind of a weird person to bring up nowadays with comedy, but he had this thing where he was like on his podcast. He was like, I've been doing it so long, I forgot what bombing felt like. And then I went to this college show and bombed so hard that I had to like reassess like kind of what I was doing even in my life. And he was like, this is decades into a career that has lots of money made for me. And I still was like, whoa, what did I miss? What did I need? Like, what could I have done to get back on track? Or what could have... And so that doesn't ever end. Like, it's just always a learning process and something. Because even when you think you've got a really good thing going, the audience changes, or the business closes down, and all of a sudden you got a different venue with that you're kind of learning even where to stand or that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
too.
where's the feedback coming with the mic? Like that's crazy to think about too. Is like those little things kind of hinder your set at first, but then you develop it more. Like the Founders or the Inside Out, like doing it the first few times, it's pretty nerve wracking. But now I've got more of a stage presence. I know what I can do there. If I really wanted to do like an apparatic jump or something, I'm not going to freak out and just like, oh, I'm going to trip over a chord or something.
Yeah.
So that's always so great to know that like, it's a learning process, and you can always continue to learn in this art form, and technically in all art forms.
Yeah.
But comedy is its own gem in itself, and I'm just so glad that I've been able to kind of like learn and develop some kind of comedy style in this sense, because I mean you hear that like, oh, you know, getting paid for comedy and stuff like that, but I think it's more of the sense of like making somebody laugh or entertaining somebody without you really like knowing that it wasn't, you know, being yourself or just, you know, something that you wrote or something you did. That's so crazy. Like, it blows me away.
Yeah, it's wild. And I will also say, like, this is just as important of a skill for a comic to know as getting up on stage, you know? And I think that there, you know, even comics who are like, I headline all over, I'm blah, 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 I'm a little bit older than you, would, like, show up in a space like this and be like, it's on the internet. Or, you know, like, you know, there's a learning curve that never will change, because comedy always chases trends, because maybe if you could be the first one there and you can be the first comic that was on TikTok, odds are good that you're gonna like get some sort of credit out of that, or some sort of industry notice or something like that out of it. So it literally cannot end, because otherwise you're gonna lose out on opportunities.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy to think about too. Like, there's comics that are just like, no, I don't really like posting, or I don't really like doing any of that stuff. I'm like, but that's where everyone's at. Like, how are you gonna get famous, or how are you gonna get found? And that's in itself another thing too, is like, one thing that I've always strived for is to be famous. I want to be famous so bad.
What counts as being famous for you? Like,
see,
when you,
here we go. This is where everyone starts to pick and choose on, like, because my idea of fame is just to be really good at something that I do and that entertains somebody. If it is the guitar, if it is the comedy, if it is, because I know how to do magic very well. I mean, I've always wanted. See, there's some. See, that's the thing, though. Is like, you want to have all these avenues to like be famous, and that's why I learned a lot of this stuff. To like, I don't know which one would or will not make me famous. And isn't it true of a lot of actors and entertainers that they know multiple skills just because they don't know what's gonna get them in the door or not? Like that. That's how I feel. So fame to me is being able to have my skill presented in front of people and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
But not the fame where I literally just post a video of me like struggling to do my laundry and it gets super famous. Like, that would be the worst. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be the worst, but it would be kind of weird.
Well, the good thing that would come out of that would be you'd be interviewed by like local newspapers or.
What do you mean? Well, Ellen would probably.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And then you get to have like, oh, I'm a comedian, and then everybody goes like, comedian Angel Lopez, blah blah. And then for you can always point to like every publication and be like, comedian, me, I've been featured in these and these, and you know what I mean? And then even if it's for a laundry thing, it just gets you to the next one, which gets you to the next one. That's
crazy. So for example, I entered in this thing called TikTok's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And it was like for like gamers and people that post on TikTok. I made it to the top 16.
That's great.
So I did a live show on Twitch with over 150,000 people watching live. But like,
that's great.
Is that like one of those things where I can just be like, yeah, so I did this thing. I did like an America's Got Talent. Give it up for Angel Lopez. Like, does that work as a credit thing as well? I mean, how do people throw their credits in people's face?
Well, I would say an opportunity like that. That your best bet would actually be to drop your socials in the chat on Twitch and have more people find you.
Okay.
And then that way you get more followers, which then no matter who you talk to the next time, that's the first thing they check. Like, industry people are going to check that immediately.
Like social media numbers.
Yeah, they're going to be like, bookers are going to be like, is this guy going to bring people to my show? Is this going to, without it being a bringer, like, but literally be like, is this guy a draw?
Yeah.
And then if it shows that you've got like hundreds of thousands of followers, then they're going to be like, no brainer. Absolutely.
Okay.
So easy. Because like, so like when Kyle Kinane came a couple weeks ago and I was able to put him up at the Cosmos, the guy who is he like owns Cosmos, and he used to own the whole Factory on Fifth artist space. He is in his 70s, and he's the nicest, most amazing man. He didn't know who Kyle Kinane is. Like, so when I was able to be like, it's Kyle Kinane, he's incredible, he's been on Comedy Central, he was like the voice of comedy, and he was like, okay. And then when I showed him, like, look at his Twitter right now, it's hundreds of thousands of followers. People are talking about Albuquerque right now because he's mentioned it. He was like, oh, then let's absolutely have him. Like, please bring him on in, you know what I mean? So we can be, for people who don't know, it's a quick way to just verify and be like, cool, got him. Come on in.
That's crazy.
But I don't know. And credits, you know, this is a conversation that I had with Anne-Marie Castillo, because Anne-Marie has had an incredible career in New York, and she's been on NPR, and she's now going to be on The Sports Animal and like all this stuff. When you ask, like, what do I say about you when I bring you up? She just says, like, just say I just moved back from New York. And I've been like, well, what do you think about credits, and how can we get local comedians more credits, and do they need that? And she was like, I don't know if people need that here. Like, I don't know if an audience is going to be like, ooh,
TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Or if they're going to be like, oh, it's just because I always think, what is in the mindset of a person who comes to a comedy show that's with all of our local comics? Odds are good they show up at work the next day, and somebody at work says, what'd you do last night? Or what'd you do this weekend? And then they go, I went to a comedy show. And then this is the next two questions that coworker is going to ask. Who'd you see? And they're going to be like, oh, it was just a bunch of local comics. And then they're going to be like, was it good? And they're going to be like, some people were okay. Or like, it was really bad. Or it was great, actually. We had a really good time. And so if we could nail this one, that's the easiest one.
Okay.
But I don't know if they were like, oh, there was some people who had been on MTV and NPR. Like, they're not going to remember that. They're just going to be like, oh, it was local people. It was really fun. It was at Hall of Spirits or whatever. And
because I feel, well, getting into comedy starting off, like those credits kind of attract people to be like, oh, well, maybe he was on like this, or oh, NPR, nice. Mm-hmm. Like, it does kind of start it off, but then again, I think you kind of have to speak for yourself when you're on the stage. Like, even though you have these intros to build you up, if you have these intros and you bomb, I mean, how well does it seem? But then again, us as comedians, like, there are those occasions where you can be 10, 15 years into the game, but you still have those moments where you bomb. Mm-hmm. Like, that blows me away in itself too. I'm just like, holy shit, like, they're like masters because they're doing it for so long, but yet they still kind of fail and fuck up because obviously that's the name of the game.
Mm-hmm. It's great. That's what makes it so exciting. That's what's so wonderful about it.
That's so weird. I love it though. It's the best part about being an entertainer. Mm-hmm. I was actually very surprised that you mentioned paying for Jeff Bezos's astronaut ship over there. Trip. Yeah. How do you feel about billionaires just like waving their money around to go to space?
Well, there's this Twitter account that I follow, and like literally all it is, it's like, has Jeff Bezos decided to end world hunger today? Oh. And then like it will always just be like, Jeff Bezos has not decided to end world hunger today. And like just once a day it just posts, and usually it'll post right after like some news has come out about him, or people will share it more, because it's the perfect way to just kind of be like, he could do this, and every day he picks not to do this. And even his ex-wife, who got all kinds of money out of the divorce, is like actively working to give this money away and can't give it away fast enough. And so it's like he could put somebody in charge of like a small part of his fortune, and they still would not be able to give it away fast enough. He'll never be able to get through all that money in his whole life, ever. But it's not even about that anymore. It's about the status of being a billionaire, because having the status of being a billionaire gets you access to things.
Everything.
And then money, it would be the same thing as like reaching into your pocket and never having to like count. Like, it would automatically be there. Like, everything is just like, it's a banana, Michael. How much could it cost? $10?
Yeah, it's like he has like a card that's just infinite. Mm-hmm. Like, he just doesn't have to really worry about it. And
when you're that rich, people don't make you buy things. People give you stuff because they want to tap into your access, and they want to use you as a thing. And so you end up like that's the sick part about having that much money, is you don't end up buying anything anymore. And so then you can do things like create an entire space program, or find out what the other billionaires are doing, because they're kind of the only people you can even really talk to or have any sort of peership with, because
Yeah.
Who else knows what's going? It's like being the Shaun White of money.
It's like, let me just go ahead and talk to every billionaire. Oh wait, there's only a few of us. And most of us don't even like each other. That's even worse. I got a few people in the chat that I just want to acknowledge right away. Erraticus, what's up? He's from Twitch right now.
Oh, great.
He just says, but can you be funny with the guitar? You got to mix both. Well, I mean, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can. I mean, it's harder than you think.
Have you seen that Kickstarter for that amp that just connects to the bottom of your guitar? Like it plugs in and then you attach it to the bottom of your guitar, so you would just be able to show up at an open mic with an electric guitar.
But that's been done.
Well, I know, but you could also you would do it differently because you're doing something from your perspective.
But they don't need a Kickstarter because that's already been done.
Is that what maybe it was like a Kickstarter I saw a decade ago. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Because I remember when I first started guitar, like that was back in like 2006, and they had this little like pocket amp that it was just battery powered. At the moment, though, you just like hooked it up to your belt buckle.
Oh, I've seen those ones.
And
before.
then had a small one. And then I went to Hastings. Remember that store? That thing was amazing. They used to have guitar stuff there, and they had one where it was kind of like almost just kind of like a little square box amp, but like it would the cord would actually just like it was this long cord that would just fold into the amp, and then when you wanted to play, you just fold it out, and then you just stick it in, and it just a little
sit on the
a little butt of an amp would be sticking out of your guitar, like if it had a weird tumor or something. But it was cool. My biggest thing when I was growing up, I used to take my guitar to school every day, but I used to take my electric guitar with no amp.
Not even the little cigarette one.
Well, I didn't have any.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that. So I was like that weird kid who's just like, oh God, look, he's brought his guitar. What is he doing? Like, I had those people, the other musicians that were like hung out with me and stuff, and would play guitar and stuff, but I was the weirdest kid for the longest time who brought his guitar with no amp.
That was all the boys I hung out with in high school, though. Like, we were the girl group that hung out next to the guy group that played their electric guitar at the bike rack at lunch.
Wherever there was a little plug-in you can plug in somewhere. That was what I kind of did for a while. So I went to a high school in Los Lunas until my sophomore year. And then, I went to go move with my grandparents, with my grandpa, and he lives up north, kind of in the Taos area, in a very small town called Penasco, New Mexico. Love that spot. I lived there for I finished my high school years of junior and senior year there. So in Los Lunas, I was like the biggest goth loser you would ever have met.
That's great.
Out of 700 kids, I was probably number 653, super at the bottom. But when I moved to Penasco, have you ever seen that movie called The New Guy, where he has
a makeover?
Yeah, I did that exact same thing. So when I went to Penasco, I just kind of had more confidence in my music, and I was like, yeah, I play guitar, and I've been playing this long, and I'm this good, and that was already something like, whoa, this guy has confidence. So I felt so much cooler. My junior year was awesome there. My senior year, I actually got runner-up for Homecoming King, which was weird as fuck.
Great. That's great.
It was weird because I was like, holy shit, runner-up? That's amazing. I would have never thought, coming from blah, 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 this small, nerdy town, that I could do it. And then the prom night came, and I didn't know. It was so awesome. I guess they take the people that were qualified for the homecoming.
The court, yeah.
Yeah, so those people just get put in the drawing again, and those are the people you get to pick for prom king and queen. And so it was a tie between me and the previous guy who won Homecoming King. And they were like, all right, everybody, we got to do a revote out there. And then they revoted, and then I won Prom King.
Oh, yeah.
With it was so ridiculous. So my whole thing out of this whole thing is I went to I graduated at a class of 50. But yet everybody still slept with everyone's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that's about right.
It was a small town.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Of course I could be popular there. Everyone else was dumb and lame. It was horrible. But that was fun. But that kind of ties into the music and just doing other things like that. And then we were talking about rich billionaires. So I love these segues. That's the best.
Is there anything else in the chat? Is there...
Maurice Linton also said, he's cool, he's an old friend of mine. Did she just gangsta that bottle?
Did I?
Did she just gangsta that bottle? Is that a thing? What is
I don't know what that means.
What is gangsta that bottle, Maurice? Can you give us some more?
Drink from it?
Oh, that would be cool.
Twist.
I thought you like poured a little bit on the
Steal
floor.
a little bit. Did I? Is that what it was? I mean, I didn't. I didn't spill.
Please don't. Odin, they could give that money away easily.
Easily,
Talking
yeah.
about the Bezos dude, all the rich people to be that, because I mean, Elon Musk is kind of in that same category now too. He is in that category. But yet he kind of like doesn't want to be.
Well, it's because he's rich because of his parents. Like he's rich. His parents had like an emerald mine in South Africa, and so he has like generational wealth, whereas everybody else was like, I did was in a garage and I invented windows, or
So stupid. Now that's how they stick their chest out. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, you inherited your money. I unfortunately developed mine. Yeah. That's so crazy. Odin, but just giving money away won't fix people's problems.
No, but if you give it to the right organizations that are doing the work on the ground, then those people genuinely can work and run with it.
That's true.
Which is different. But you're right. Money doesn't buy happiness.
That's crazy to think about too, because like most of the world's problems, I feel, is because of poverty. Mm-hmm. So if there were just like better money development in like the ghetto, or like even places that don't have money, then maybe it would be different. Mm-hmm. There's no real statistical evidence. Maybe I'm not a scientist. Please don't quote me on any of this. But I mean, people are so much happier when they have a little bit of money, or they just have the well-being of knowing they don't have to struggle for it.
They can go to the doctor. Yeah. I always think that that's a big one too. It's like people literally die just because they can't go to the doctor, or if you're in if you're in a area that doesn't have access to even good doctors because they all leave to go to some other town or whatever. That's an issue. I mean, there's just like so much that like it gets down to like teeny tiny stuff that you're like, a little bit of money would help out here. But
well, then this is more of like a conspiracy based thing now. But like, do you think money was created to kind of like maintain and like kind of structure people in a sense where like, hey, obviously the people that make it and control it have more ability to do what they want. I don't know, is the Federal Reserve just as strong as Jeff Bezos, or did Jeff Bezos become stronger than the Federal Reserve? Like, how does that work?
Ooh, this is getting into conspiracy theory stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's always been trade for goods and services, and money is just supposed to represent the in-between between that trade and then everything, and not even everything, because we're a very specific country that has very specific infrastructure built around very specific ideals that a lot of countries don't have. There's not every country has the same like money like kind of thing, but then in a way they do, because there's still people who control
whatever currency they are, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were like in an indigenous group where they're just like, our currency is like this very rare rock, then that would be like, we need all the rocks. I need to take all these rocks. So is that just kind of like a human basic instinct? Like, we kind of just have to fend and kind of collect the wealth that is around us.
Yeah, I mean, that like core desire and to survive that keeps us going. There's a lot of comfort in knowing that you're taken care of. And if we're told that money is the thing that makes sure that you're taken care of, it probably makes people pretty crazy about wanting that, because otherwise they feel like they're not safe, or they're not going to survive, or they're not going to take care of their kids, or that kind of stuff. And so I'm sure that there's a very human part of ourselves that has now been throughout history tied to money, which is weird. And when people are always like, it's late stage capitalism and all that stuff, I'm like, what? How late stage? I mean, it's still gonna keep going.
We're just gonna be the same thing with crypto. Crypto's gonna change it all.
Right.
It's gonna be the same.
Yeah. It's already, I mean, you can already see the way that the billionaire class, I did not come here to talk about this, but like,
we're here to tell the truth. I know.
But the way they treat crypto, and like the way when Elon Musk tweets about Doge and like it'll go nuts, or when he's on SNL it dives, or like the guy who owns the Mavericks, who's on Shark Tank, Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
He does the same thing too, where he's like pumping up some of these like cryptocurrencies with just his presence. But he's just doing it to mess with everything and like kind of see where things can go, and if they can make money, and if they can actually, their biggest hope is that it wouldn't destabilize the current system of things.
Okay.
God, I'm sorry. This is wackadoo thoughts, but
No, because this is what I've kind of find interesting now too is I never really had this interest in kind of the way that money works, the way the stock market, the way crypto balances are, everything like that until recently, until it became mainstream. But as we've seen hedges and different funds really screw the little man, where we've exploited that. And right now, because I know I've mentioned it on my post before, and you commented where you're just like, yeah, I'm an ape too.
Yeah.
And in the AMC family right now, there is a big concern that we know that there's a bunch of shorts from hedges that have to keep paying this every day. But they're doing it for whatever reason, because they kind of know. I feel like they know more of the psychology of basic humans compared to somebody that's like a really tough investor that's been doing this for years. So as you're seeing now, the price of it is going down, and people that invested at maybe like $40 or $50 are super like they feel like it's the end of their financial careers.
Yeah, well, I mean, people were putting so much into it, but yeah.
That's crazy to think about too. But is it more of like, now that we know, we see it, is it market manipulation from higher ups because they know like, hey, we can't let lower end people get this wealth, because then maybe out of the 100 people that get $1 million, 10 of them are going to go crazy and do something stupid, which is going to affect the rest of the 999 people that are just like, oh, well, I just wanted my money to like give back to the community, or like pay my school debt, or like my parents could use some of this money. But they don't. That's what's so crazy, is that there's this like manipulation of like, oh, you guys don't know what you're doing with the money, and you guys are going to ruin the economy. But yet it seems like we got to make sure that the higher ups stay higher up, and lower end retail investors, aka the apes, don't do that. I mean, what made you want to invest at I mean, obviously you're not an investor 10 years ago, right?
No. I mean, I have some stocks and stuff, and when I worked at Apple, they like they automatically put you into a 401k. Like, it's very nice of them. But that's like the only, I have $1,000, whatever. But
it's something compared to other people where they're just like, again, we're learning about this now. So
there's a YouTube channel that I watch a lot where it's like, whatever happened to, and then it's like a company that everybody loved growing up, like Toys R Us, or like Chuck E. Cheese, or Krispy Kreme, or like these things that everybody was like, people love this. Like, what was the or Cece's Pizza is another one that's like really interesting to me, because the model of it makes a lot of sense. Just all you can eat pizza,
right?
No brainer. And what sucks about that YouTube channel is it's the same story every time. They start out, they've got a cute little idea, then they grow a lot, and then they can't sustain that growth. So then they end up to stay alive, giving it over to hedge fund people who short sell it, and then those people go out of their way to make sure that company just files for bankruptcy and doesn't exist anymore, so that the hedge fund people can buy it short sold and make money off of its failing. That is sad. Like, that's a sad way of doing, like, that's leading like intentional destruction. That's
like, I feel like something, if we would have known about this when Hastings was dying, it would have probably been something that a lot of people would have been interested in, and probably could have done something, because now they're saying like, oh, GameStop is now revamped. It can actually, it has the money to do whatever it wants now. Same thing with AMC and some of these stocks too. But is it okay, the guy that owns most of AMC now has all this money, is he going to be that greedy asshole that just like, well, did you Bowser?
See? Yeah. I love the idea of thinking of Bowser as a business owner. Anyway,
horrible.
No, I mean, the cool thing about AMC is they were so thrilled that this was happening. They immediately started treating all the stock owners like they were investors. Like, they wrote emails that I would get through my like trading app that were like, hey, you're an investor in AMC, you get a free popcorn.
Yeah,
we're going to tell you about like our strategy now that we've got some money, and we're going to revamp after COVID and like all this stuff. And I was like, this is exciting. Like, this is an exciting thing that you don't get to see. You don't get to see happy endings like this. And then when you did start seeing those couple days where it wouldn't get over 60, like it never, like it would get, the market would open, And I would watch on Google that it would like it would go like 57, 58, 59, and then something would happen right before 60 where it would then go right back down to 57.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'd be like, oh, we have to freeze it. Oh, because everything's happening so fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then when Robinhood would like not let people buy it and like all, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, the halting trading and stuff like that.
And so it just seemed like, just if it's a free market and that's what we want, and you guys really want to just let it ride. Like, really see what happens.
Yeah.
But
because I've seen more. I feel more positive aspects would come if they can actually let people like us become more. We just get a little bit of money. Like it's crazy how it's not structured like that. Yeah. But then again, it makes me think like, do these guys know something we don't know against these other financial markets? Because like, as you know, China has its own like stock market exchange. Australia, all these other that I feel are always in competition with each other. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not scared of China, but they do some moves that make me think, like, what if a superpower migrant shift happened where, like, you know, we kind of, stuff like that does. I mean... Yeah.
It's all stuff to think about, and that's another thing. Once you do start getting into all of this, then all of a sudden you're like very concerned about the commerce of the world, and you're like, why don't I have enough brain space for this?
That's why I love the aspect of being a comedian, though, because if you can't make fun of any of this, then obviously you're just gonna go crazy in your room and just be like, oh my god, next Alex Jones video.
Yeah, exactly. And did you see that thing last week on Twitter where like people were seeing just like every video on YouTube is like 2 jumps away from like virus misinformation or something like that. Like if you watch a video and then you let it autoplay to the next video, it's something related, and then if you let it go like I think 1 or 2 more, it immediately goes into something that's like propaganda and weird and messed up.
Interesting.
And so it's like, what is happening right now? How are people getting their information? And when people say that they're doing their own research, I'm always like, what does that mean? Like, what are you?
Because now technically you can have your own like news source that's kind of just yours. It doesn't even have to be like, oh, we both listen to the daily feed. Like you listen to the Daily Buzz, I listen to the Daily Feed, and they're 2 different like they can be even 2 different like, you know, left-wing news sources, but yet they're still telling you 2 different things, and you're just like, wait, what?
And then you'll find it because somebody that you follow tweets it with their own commentary that also like colors how you're gonna take that information in. And so like nobody is getting the same news, which sometimes it might be good because it does mean that like there's not a monopoly on how information is given to somebody. But then there's also just like so much misinformation. It's wild right now.
People kind of like lean towards like, oh well, I mean, if my friend believes it, then maybe I should believe it too, when in that aspect it could be more of like I should do my own research about it. But then again, too, like you do your research and you end up in this rabbit hole of people that agree with just that one topic. This is why flat Earth is a flat Earth thing. There's still people that argue that, like
really argue it.
They go to science conventions. They actually try their best to convince people that the Earth is flat. And at this point, I am more susceptible to the simulation theory than the Earth being flat. Like it blows me away. But then again, do you feel like it's just the knowledge of us growing as a human? Because we know nothing about ourselves. We know nothing about anything we can do. Supposedly, our history is like we were able to talk to each other with our minds, and like, you know, this and did like, I don't know how much you believe in like I guess cultures that have like died and like past, like, you know, like were taken out by a cataclysmic event, and then all of a sudden like, oh look, this ancient structure's still here.
Like Easter Island is like a really great example of that. It's wild. I mean, there was a podcast that I read that was like, there's something in the soil of Easter Island that they've been able to like synthesize, and they use it to treat cancer.
Jesus.
And they use it to help patients accept transplants better, because for some reason it like suppresses the like your immune system in a way that like helps you heal and can like, it's wild. I mean, there's you'll never, it's kind of the same thing with comedy. You'll never be done learning, or you'll never be done uncovering weird things.
That's so cool, but then it kind of makes me scared too, because like there might be things that have been known for quite a while, and that we've known, but now people are actually starting to shed light on it, kind of like the UFO thing.
Yeah, oh, isn't that wild?
That's scary.
It's very scary.
No, all my life it was fake. All my life. I mean, and in my back of my head, I'm just like, oh, they just like maybe it's just something that they don't want to tell us. And now it's like we can't deny it anymore.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
Well, I mean, the problem is all that information came out in the midst of a lot of chaos. Like, there was one of those things too where we were like, not now, and like we were dealing with everything else. But then now we kind of are at a spot where we can be like, okay, what was that though a couple months ago about the UFOs? And you're not calling them that anymore. You're calling them the thing about the
UB something like that. I don't want to even try to attempt it.
Right, and then they're like. And then they don't know, like they only have so much knowledge even of like what is the intent or what is that stuff, and then you're just kind of like, what is happening? Like, this is a weird. I think that's the joke too, where everybody's like, I hate it here. We're on the darkest timeline, all this kind of stuff. But it's a weird timeline. This is a weird reality that we're in right now.
I love that you say timeline too, because the Loki series just finished and it talks about multiverses and shit like that. Because I never really thought of it this way, but time is like circular but flat. So you can, if you are the observer,
like the Earth.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Don't believe that. Internet. God. Okay.
Right. Oh my God. The comment section's going crazy after that. But yeah, you can see the passage of time if it's flat, and then the multiple levels of it, which is blowing me away. But going back to the UFO thing, I honestly feel like aliens are about to show themselves, and like the government's like, fuck, how do we do this? How do we do it this time? We don't know how to do it. Let's just kind of tell them it's there.
Feed them information little by little.
Because I honestly feel they've been prepping us about aliens since almost like the beginning of time.
Well, I mean, that's an Ancient Aliens stuff, right? Yeah. There's a whole show about it.
Aliens. What is it though? Desensitization. So like we've seen so many different portrayals of aliens. We've seen the Greys. We've seen Predator. We've seen this little thing that has another mouth inside of it. We've seen it all. So when this one alien does reveal itself, I don't think we'll be that freaked out.
Hopefully.
We're just gonna be like, oh, dude, that's like that movie.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
That's my assumption. For all we know, they could be like glowing orbs that just like float to you.
Right, or gas. I think sometimes, like, what if it's just like a collection of sentient gas?
Yeah.
Like there's not even a way to have shape for that, but we don't know because we want to make it so much like a human and anthropomorphize it so bad that we're like, oh, maybe it's just like us.
Exoskeleton.
Yeah.
It's so weird. But that's what I love too, because here goes another deep question. Have you ever indulged in like psychedelic drugs?
I can't talk about that on the internet.
Because there's some things about like those trips and those experiences that just kind of like blow the concept of what reality really is.
Yeah.
Like,
and I will say, like, even if you look at the look at a mushroom as a thing that grows on this planet, okay? Just it doesn't grow like anything else. I mean, they say it's kind of like mold. Everything is a fungus. It's classified as a fungus. Yeah. But like, there's that one where it's like it's all interconnected and it stretches for miles long, and it does feel like if you poke it on one end, it'll feel it like miles down the road.
Yeah.
And those kind of things that I think are maybe actually as close to some wackadoo understanding of aliens that we could come up with, which is why I'm sure that if people ingested them and the experience that they had while they do it probably does give some sort of like otherworldly kind of
experiences. Or
there's just something bigger, greater thing going on than just the stuff that we walk around and me and Kelly always talk about how if you're observing humans, it probably just looks like we pick up things and move it to another space, and pick up things and move it to another space, and then we sit very still for a while and look at something that's glowing, and we put it down, and then we eat something, and then it's just pushing things from one place to another, and then okay, and then you do it again.
Just the next one. I like that analogy too. I did acid one time in my life, and that was only maybe like 3 years ago. Yeah. But it was a fun experience, colors, all that cool stuff. But my friend, his experience blew me away, because after the whole thing, he told me, like, every time I looked up and saw you guys, all you guys looked like were Sims characters. Oh. So we would walk around and just be like, Yeah, and like he was freaking out because he's like, you guys really aren't having that much of a conversation. There's nothing going on. You literally just go have a few seconds and just it blew me away how he analogized it, and I was just like, that's so cool. And it makes me feel that way too, because when I play the game, I really want them to do something. I'm like, do this, do that, and then they're just like, I'm doing my own thing. Like it feels like if there is something higher up there or something more, the creator, whatever that sense may be, like they get to play this video game and they're having a great time when we do stupid stuff like that.
Oh, they're mad at each other. Oh, they're very mad at each other. Uh-oh. Hold on, wait.
Let me select start. All right, he's good. My character's good. I've always tried to analyze my life like that, though. Like, I just want to have, like, the stat cards, and I'm just like, my charisma is maybe at a 4. I need to get it to a 10. Like, I need it up there. Oh, man, musical skills are really high up there. But then, looks are like 3. Like, how can I fix that?
No way.
I like analogy, making my life a little bit more comedic in that sense, too.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I don't know why I keep talking about Chris Hardwick because he's not even relevant anymore, but he had a book that was like...
Someone had a small crush.
I liked him a lot. I mean, he was so cool about... He had a fan base that was nerds.
He was hot.
And yeah, well, he was cute, but...
I liked him.
But his book, he specifically told people to, like, make a D&D character sheet for yourself and figure out, like, where's your quotient level for these different categories, and figure out what skills you can acquire to up you where you want to be upped. And that just seemed like a very doable way to like level up or do self-improvement. And I just,
it's manageable, and you can kind of see it in that sense. So are you a nerd? Do you kind of like follow pop culture a lot? Have you
It's all I do.
Oh, nice. Awesome. So how excited are you about this whole MCU? Are you excited at all about the MCU?
Here's the problem: is like I like
Endgame, and that was it.
No, I didn't. I've never seen well, that's not true. I saw an Avengers movie, but like I watched WandaVision.
Okay.
I like Spider-Man, the character. Like I liked his cartoons and all the X-Men cartoons. I read the comics, Marvel movies, and Star Wars too. Like I was so obsessed with Star Wars growing up. I read all the like outer universe stuff that doesn't even count as canon anymore. Like all of that. And then there's just something about it being owned by Disney that makes me mad. And so, like, for some reason, I'm like,
not anymore.
I'm not buying those Funko Pops. But, like, I pay attention to everything. I think that there should be a channel that's like ESPN, but for nerd stuff. Like, there should be shows where people are, like, talking about things and talking about what just came out. And, like, kind of the way that G6 or whatever used to try to be. G4, yeah, see? Well, I had fancy cable that actually...
We got it up to 6. What were you watching? They only covered NES games?
Yeah, it was wild. But, like, that stuff, too, where it's like, I play video games, but I'm not a gamer. I'm obsessed with the things that I have that are hyperfixations I'm very nerdy about. So, like, my favorite TV show growing up was Xena Warrior Princess. I'm still obsessed with Xena. I have Xena everything. I do have a Xena Funko Pop. I have the action figures. I had a kite at one time, or so I collect stuff, but it's whatever. I just like, and that's the way I was about Taylor Swift too. I was about Taylor Swift like the way a nerd would be about a nerd thing. Yeah. So like I know stats about her and like weird, and I want to, so I have a nerd approach to things that are not necessarily, I think, because you know what, and not to get like on my high horse about it, but sometimes there's not a lot of space for girls doing nerd stuff sometimes, or you get...
That's changing.
I know it is, and it's good, but it's like for me, I just want quiet, like let me just really, really love this thing, and you guys shut up about it, and like...
Yeah. And that's crazy too that you say that too, because there's a lot of gamers and a lot of like males that stream on Twitch that are getting very upset because a girl that streams in a hot tub with a bikini gets hundreds of thousands of views.
Well, sure.
and someone like me is like playing like Call of Duty and they're just like 3 people watching me. That there's like a weird demographic of how that works now is because like you can see everything on the internet. Yeah. Anything now.
Yeah, it's like Bo Burnham's song.
It's ridiculous because nothing is like desensitized anymore where you kind of like, oh, that's kind of taboo or you can't learn about that yet. You kind of can figure it out on your own when you grow up. But now if you like hear something, it's literally Googled on your phone like instantly. And is that making society more like knowledgeable about the world, or is it just like, holy shit, this kid should not have known about a school shooting at the age of 6?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about the exact dichotomy about it, where it's like, how great to never have to look up how to spell a word or, you know, in a dictionary, but also like, holy moly, I don't know, like, you know, there was that big call for like 10 years ago where they were just like, boys are learning what sex is because they're watching porn and they're not having conversations or really connecting with partners or that kind of stuff. And so then that becomes like a real problem if that's what you think reality is going to end up being like. And then woof, you know, so there's got to be some sort of balance. And I worry just about that idea of, like Bo Burnham says, where it's like a little bit of everything, there's no boredom. There's nothing like that, but it's also very cool that anybody can throw up and make a movie if they want to and have it be seen by 1 million people, or write a song and put that up there and be Lil Nas X in like 4 months. You can it's like there's a lot of opportunity, and then there's a lot of things that are like pretty scary that we're still just learning about it. So I don't know, I go back and forth about it, but then also, isn't it kind of cool that stand-up comedy is not one of those things? Like stand-up comedy, you can't just YouTube it and be like, oh, now I know everything about.
You can, but it's not the best either.
No, and you're like, well, who are you to tell me this? Like, you don't know. I don't know you. I don't know. And then, like, even if you watch the master class that's taught by Steve Martin, that's his perspective about what stand-up comedy is, even though it's the master class about it. And it's actually a really good master class, but that doesn't mean you know everything. That doesn't mean that you've got to go and do it. You have to go and do it.
Yeah. And that was the beauty that I found in comedy, is that like I can sit in my room and write all the jokes that I want, but unless I go out there and try it, I won't know if it's good or not. And that's the difference between music, is like I can practice in my room for hours and get perfect at it, and then go on stage and I'm still perfect. It's not no different translation, but the comedy thing is like a development that has to happen. I don't know if you remember this comedian that was here for a while. His name was Loy Lee.
I love Loy.
Yeah, Loy Lee. Like I learned a lot from him. I had him on the podcast quite a few times, but that was one thing that he kind of put in perspective for me, is like, you practice your guitar for how much a day? And I was like, well, maybe like an hour or two, like a day. And he's like, well, now imagine doing that in comedy, but you don't, because you have to do it 5 minutes. So it takes you literally like a month to get 1 hour of practice in, compared to 1 day of you practicing. And I'm just like, holy fuck, mind blowing. But that's exactly the best. You have to put the time into it. But unfortunately, the time for comedy is only so limited that you can only do it for so long, for a certain amount of time every day.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing about being in New York. Like, and that's why Pete Davidson blew up so quickly, so young, is because he was going out, he'd leave Staten Island, and then he would just hit every mic he possibly could. He can get like, and there were people when I was there that were doing 7 mics a night.
That sounds amazing, but like nerve-wracking at the same time.
It was a constant juggling. They would ask the host of one place to put them up early, and then at some point down the line ask to go late at another one, and like kind of everybody would let them do it because they knew how hard they were working, and they just that kind of like banking and the hours and just trying to get what it needed to. And then also that in and of itself is its own credit. Like, everybody knew the people in town who were doing the most, and so they would get booked for things just because it's like, well, God,
he's trying. I see him going to the 7 mics and stuff like that. That's interesting too, because I've kind of dealt with that here, where like there's a few mics that are on Thursday where I'm just like, I wish I could hit them all, but then I don't get out of work until a certain time, so obviously there's one mic that I can't make, so I'm just like, work hinders me for the first mic. I run to the first other mic, and then I literally have to give the host like $5 or something just so he'll put me on first. If not, it'll be like a dragging contest where it's just like, oh, we have 5 karaoke singers, and then you, and then that, and then to try to hit the next mic after that is even crazier. And then now I heard there's a mic in Santa Fe on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And it seems so hot, so nice. It looks like it's very fun, but it's all the way in Santa Fe, and like the time that I get out of work is like a really struggle. So I usually just always go to your mic because it's like so much more convenient. It's still in town and stuff like that. But that's one of those things where like a comedian grinds, they're like, all right, I hit the Santa Fe mic and I still have enough time. I literally finished at 9:30. I could probably make Sarah's mic before it turns to 11. So that's those grinding, but they have to do those hours.
But I will also say for that early one on Thursdays, the best part about the sign up for it is like you get to pick when you want to go. So if you know you're gonna get out of work around this time-ish, just message me and I'll put you later on in the lineup, and then you can swing by and kick off everything that way if you want to.
On the Wednesday one?
Thursday. Because like you're talking about Rusty's mic, right?
Yeah.
The early one.
Yeah.
Even though the sign up's early, you can go later. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can sign up to go later, or I'm sure Rusty would be cool with you dropping by when you could drop by.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know how long his mic lasts either. I mean,
it's supposed to go from like till like 7:30.
Okay.
So
just
good
like,
way to. I mean, get 3 in one night. That would be so cool.
And
like hat trick.
And it's a networking too, like you say. Like, hey, just hit up Rusty and be like, hey man, I'm trying to hit this mic as soon as I can. Can I get there when I can? If he says yeah, then yeah. If he says no, he says no. Like, what am I gonna do, right?
Yeah, and I do it all the time. Like sometimes, at my mic, like Corey Herrera will be like, I'm just now getting over there. Is there still stuff going on? Can you sign me up? And like, sometimes I'm juggling a lot and I can't get back to him, but most of the time I'm like, no problem, man. Just put it down, and then like what's great too is he'll sing a song and he'll like hang out for a bit. But it's I have no problem ever as a host trying to as much as I possibly can accommodate what everybody's trying to do, because I know it's a hustle. You gotta do it.
Is that a little different though if your mic is more poppin' and kind of more popular? So if your mic is poppin' and more popular, you have more comics that are coming to it, but yet your time slot is only from, let's say, 8 to
9.
Or, even let's push it 10.
Yeah.
But yet you still have to try to fit over 25 comics in there. Like, is that something where now you have to be like, hey, guys, you got to make it here on time because I can only have 25 of you guys. If we push the 27 or the 30, I can't put you on. You have this first come, first serve kind of idea. Like, is that work if the mic are more popular, or is that just kind of a host mentality?
I think it varies host by host. But I mean, when you're hosting, especially when you're producing and hosting, you're juggling your performers, the audience, and the venue, and so you've got to keep all of them happy, and so you've got to sometimes pull in one direction to help out the other direction and stuff like that. So if the venue is like, guys, we have to close like at 10, we cannot be open later than 10, then you do kind of be like, okay, well, then I'm gonna just try to fit everybody in. Like, but for the most part, businesses are just happy to have people now, especially like while we're opening up more. And I think most venues are pretty cool if your stuff runs long, because it means people are staying longer, buying more drinks, buying more food. And so, and I mean, like, let's take Monday as an example. Like, for Royal...
That's not what I was talking about at all.
I know. Like, I mean, Royal as a host is juggling a lot, and he's doing some stuff. But again, if you told him, like, every day I work, or I cannot get there until a certain time, can I message you and tell you I'm coming, and then you just, while you're making your lineup, include me? Or have one of the other comics, like Robert Eister, could be like, and I'm also going to put... I'm gonna put him in here, and then make sure that like you include Angel like later on in the lineup, and then that's like the easiest conversation. And like me as a host, if somebody did that with me, I'd be like, great. And then if we end up having to skip you because it didn't work out that night, it's not that big a deal. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, it varies from host to host. I just happen to be like the coolest host.
And there you guys go. Everyone knows that Sarah's the coolest host.
Never show up on time to my stuff. It's totally cool.
It's like, we're still going.
Yeah.
No, but I kind of get that and understand. I just feel like, again, if it's so much more popular and stuff, and you're just like, I only have 2 hours to fill, and yet if I give each comic 5 minutes, I can only have these amount of comics. So if you're here at this time, I can give it to you. But if you're not, try again next time. And that's technically what it's more like in a bigger city, right? With like more...
Oh, they'll do it from a bucket. That's the thing about New York is you have to put your name in a bucket, and they literally pull it out like it's a lottery.
That's not like every show though, right? That's like, again...
Most mics, that's the way the mics work in New York. It's almost all buckets. Almost all. And then what they'll do is they'll pull out 5 at a time. And they'll just be like, okay, your next group is going to be Angel, Royal, Carla, Tyler. And then one after another, they just go up. They don't even get like an intro or anything like that. You just go up, and then they're like, okay, next group is gonna be Robert, Steph, like, and then it just, that way you maximize the amount of people you're able to get in, and everybody doesn't feel like, stop wasting our time with jokes in between everything or whatever. I'm just here to do my jokes. And then you're only performing for other comedians, so it doesn't really, there's not like there's an audience that's there being like, well, this isn't the experience I was expecting.
Right. I was ready for a comedy laugh.
Yeah. So, so we don't do that when we don't, and that's even harder because you got to be there every single time there's a new group. Like, is it going to be me? And then eventually, once you know all the hosts and stuff like that, they kind of cherry pick who goes into different groups and stuff like that too. So you can kind of say like, I'm trying to do 7 tonight. Can I please go up early?
Yeah. Or me and these guys are like trying.
Yeah, we're all coming to. Yeah, we're gonna come through together. Can we like? We all have gone already, but this guy hasn't gone yet, and we've got to get to the next thing. And then they'll be like, okay, no problem. And then
we'll get him on the next one. Okay. It's so crazy. I still need to go and experience doing open mics out of the state.
It's awesome.
Because they're everywhere, like literally just close in Colorado. There's some in Arizona. There's stuff in Texas, like even the Santa Fe one. Just try it out. It's different than Albuquerque. I just need to do it.
Those Santa Fe guys are very nice.
Wayward Comedy, I think.
Oh yeah.
Something like that. You guys are awesome. Shout out quick. Going back to the comment section, let's see what's going on here. Odin says, time is not that flat if it's in four dimensional, bro, get real.
It's in stunning 4D.
4-dimensional. Okay. I would be totally surprised. Erraticus said, well, remember we also have disinformation agents like Alex Jones and Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Oh man. Odin as well. At that point, parents should filter what their children watch or are exposed to.
Yeah.
That doesn't work as well anymore.
No. Did you see all those old YouTube? Did you see that thing when like there was YouTube children content that was being made with like characters, and it was weird, like they were getting pregnant.
Spider-Man and Elsa and stuff like that. It was they know how to bypass all that stuff.
It's weird.
And not only that, kind of like the same thing you were talking about, where like you'll be watching a video and then the next video is like related to it, next one. But literally, if you went down a rabbit hole for like hours on end, you end up in like these like weird like Middle Eastern kind of videos and stuff, and you're just like, how is this related to Spider-Man? It's so crazy. I don't know how they would. That's some crazy ass. I cannot even. Odin, and also easing their child into the world.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, you do eventually have to kind of be like, go find out, go see.
But I guess it kind of depends though, because I feel my childhood was mostly raised by the TV.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's sad, but it's not, because I'll think of like episodes of like Malcolm in the Middle, and there's like a really moral lesson to it, and I'm like, holy fuck, why didn't I learn that from you, Mom? I learned that from Malcolm in the Middle. And that's what blows me away, is that like that has some structure in teaching the youth if you kind of like take it in the right kind of way. Like obviously if you watch South Park, it's kind of like degrading and gross and like, oh, it's nasty. But then there's some underlying episodes where you're just like, oh shit, they're like best friends and they always stick together or stuff like that, and you're just like, I'm going to take that from the episode and not Kenny dying all the time. So I feel like I think our culture did pretty good with doing that kind of like, hey, let me take these sitcoms and TV shows, and obviously a big portion of the population is going to watch this. Maybe they'll learn more value from it. Maybe there's like some psychology meaning behind it, but I feel like that is what makes America amazing. I mean, how was your childhood growing up? Was it more structured? Did you have like a nuclear family? Were you just kind of like, hey, what's up, guys? I'm a cholo.
No, I've got, I mean, my parents and then my brother, and then we had a dog usually.
Are you the youngest?
No, I'm the oldest.
Whoa.
Yeah. And actually, my mom and my dad are both the youngest of their family too, so I'm the only oldest in a family of youngest.
Interesting.
Which is a really interesting
that
kind of vibe.
That is really like taking it and analyzing it. That was a weird word.
So there's that. But then like my parents were very cool with everything, and like by the time they found out about something in pop culture, we had already been watching it and we were fine. So then they were like, because I remember specifically with South Park, they bought us the South Park Nintendo 64 game. We watched it pretty regularly. My brother loved it. And then eventually my parents like saw something on the news about it and they're like, have you guys been watching South Park? And we were like, yeah, we love it. And then they're like, okay, well, it doesn't seem like it's that bad if you guys are still good human beings. Right. So keep watching it, I guess. There's nothing we can really do now.
Yeah, especially like back then, like the way they try to like censor TV was like, oh, let me put a parental lock on your TV so you can't even go to this channel. It's just like, this is way too difficult. Like your kid's gonna watch it either or. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a big part of it, where it's like it was all fine, and then sorry, I just got a text message. Yeah, but it was all that kind of stuff. Same thing with video games. Like we played Mortal Kombat before my parents knew Mortal Kombat was a thing to be concerned about, and then they were like, "Oh my God, what is this video game?" And I'm like, "We have it. We own it. We played it at Joseph's house, and he brings it like here." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, well then fine, keep playing." Yeah. And like, have fun.
Was it the kind of the same thing with music as well too?
No, I mean my parents. Well, the problem is like
they're not listening to Slayer or anything like that.
No, I mean my brother never really had like a metal phase. So like
even then though, you could be listening to like NWA.
Yeah, that's true too. But I didn't really have a hip hop phase really either. I mean, I appreciate it, know it, culturally love it. I think I love documentaries about it and all that stuff. But like, there wasn't a time where I think the only CD I wanted to buy that had a parental guidance sticker on it was Limp Bizkit's second album with Nookie and everything on it.
Like the Chocolate Starfish?
No, the one before that. So the one that had, like it's blue, and I think it's called Significant Other. I'm really trying to hedge my knowledge about nu metal, because I love it, and I'm trying to be like very cool and be like, I don't know what it was called, but
it was there back then.
Yeah.
The Limp Bizkit stuff.
I loved Limp Bizkit and Korn, and like, I went to Edgefest one time, and the lineup I thought was a dream lineup that I would never get to see again in my life, and I couldn't believe all my dreams were coming true. And the headliners were Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock, and Smash Mouth. And I remember being like, this is the greatest concert ever! And then now I look back on it and I'm like, whoa.
But then again, they were probably like at the height of their careers at that time. Yeah. So I would love to have gone to that concert too at that time.
People were stoked. People were so excited. And it's still one of my favorite cultural events that's ever happened in Albuquerque. Like, I think it's one of those things that people always remember.
That used to happen here.
Yeah. And the one that was their one. And
that was... Do you remember what number it was? Which one it was?
No, I think it was 98 or 99, because I remember it was before Woodstock 99, where they were all also on that.
Okay.
But then it was, there was just, I mean, even the lower on the lineup people were like, everybody I listened to on the Edge. Like, it was Cottonmouth Kings, who still come to Albuquerque all the time, and then like Zebrahead, which is a band that like nobody even remembers, but I was so excited about it. And then it was like Fuel and Tonic, which were kind of like the wussier side of like alternative rock at that time, but I loved them. And then it was, I mean, it was just like all the way up through the whole lineup. I was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
Interesting.
But
I like that genre too. Like, you were kind of like into the new metal scene growing up.
Sometimes when I am like really stressed at work and I've got to get like a really awful task done, I have a whole playlist that I made that's just like Slipknot and Static X and like all that, like all of those, and I just listen to them and I just like plow through whatever work I gotta get through.
That's always fun too, because like I mean, I want to kind of have more of a joke around it, but like music is so motivating. Like, it gets you to do so many cool things. Like, even if you don't want to do something, you just throw it on and you're just like, let's grind through this. Why not? So that's so cool. But I mean, I wish you would have gone more hardcore with like some Norwegian black metal or something. You're just like, Satan.
I had a hardcore phase where I listened to like hardcore, but I was in college at that point, and my parents didn't care. So like, they don't care who Converge is, and they don't care about like Comeback Kid or any of that. They probably don't even know that I listened to that music. But I had a whole thing where I used to go to the shows all the time, but it's still, I mean, they know that I was obsessed with Lilith Fair and Sarah McLachlan and all that, and they knew that I was obsessed with country music and really into Reba McEntire and all that. So like, that was really what most of my childhood was, until all of a sudden I had this weird
rebellious phase.
I guess.
It's like, let me tell you a little bit about Nookie.
I suddenly have to own a red Yankees hat.
Oh man, that's so cool though. Like, like growing up and discovering music too, like you never know what you'll find out there and stuff. Like my parents, my mom was the kind of the rocker of the family, so she was always listening to like Def Leppard or like the Scorpions or Ozzy and stuff like that. But then she always was into like 80s music as well, so like Cyndi Lauper and like the like Two Tones and like rap music, stuff like that too. And then my dad is like a straight like Mexican, like a Mexican. He doesn't speak English at all. I have to speak Spanish to him all the time. It's like, you're so lucky I still know Spanish. But he was so Mexican. He never listened to like any rock and roll or anything like that. But he was into one band, the Scorpions, and I thought that was so cool. I was like, my dad's so cool because he likes the Scorpions. So that was a crazy introduction into music. But then my uncle was like this really big metalhead who was into like the darkest stuff. I was like Slayer, Slipknot, Metallica, Megadeth. Like the list just went on where I'm just like, this is a world that I want to be a part of now. And then I end up going through this gothic phase where I just like liked Marilyn Manson and like stupid emo music at that point. And even in high school, I was just like the Los Lunas years. I noticed how I call it the Los Lunas years. I would wear like those baggy trip pants with like the chains and gothic shirt, and I was just like, yeah, I'm so emo.
Big ball necklace. Did you have one of those?
I didn't.
They're heavy.
Those were kind of funny too, because I do remember my friends having those on. Or the Sid Vicious thing where they just had the lock. It's like, I'm so cool. There's a lock to my heart. Something dumb like that. But and then learning music, like guitar and stuff, made me appreciate all music, because I could listen to like a great country guitarist and I'm just like, wow, this guy shreds so well, but he's country. But then I listen to it and I'm just like, that's way better than like, you know, the solo off of God of Life, you know. I'm just like, but it's its own respective genre, and there's something great about it, and it made me appreciate music now so much. Like I've listened to so many things. Like my category of what I like I like this little, I saw this meme one time where it's like my playlist is like literally Tupac sitting right next to like Beethoven, and then in the background Kiss is just there waving. Like, you know, there it's crazy when you do understand music a little bit more and like understand how it's made and stuff like that. So as you as well, being a musician, what instrument have you played or are you learning at the moment? Because I've heard you had a banjo. I'm just like, what?
I have a guitanjo or whatever, like a bantar. It's like it's a banjo, but it's strung and it's tuned like a guitar. So you can play chords and you can play it like a guitar, but it has the round, so it sounds like a banjo, which is good because I've played guitar off and on, and I'm not good. But I've played since I was in like 5th grade. You know, I had one, and then I like would pick it up and teach myself some stuff. And then when I moved out of my parents' house when I was like 19, I played guitar constantly, and I had a band. We were on MySpace, and we actually this was the funniest thing about that band is like we just did covers of like 90s dance hits, like Be My Lover, Wanna Be My Lover. We did it acoustic, kind of like the way Cat Power used to do things, or like indie Manic Pixie Dream Girl kind of stuff with those music, like those songs. And we put them up on MySpace, and somebody reached out to us and they're like, hey, I do music for like commercials and movies and stuff, and we would love to like license like a couple of your songs to like put in the background of things. And me and my friend were so excited that we went and we bought like sparkling cider, and we like toasted, and like we were like, we did it, we've made it. And then we never made music together again, and never even touched the MySpace profile because we like freaked out.
It's like one of those things where just like you guys were a band and just like went through the whole phase of like leaving each other, the drug addiction, but one just swoop through the whole thing.
So that was good. And so like I got that, and then I have one of those little drum boxes you can sit on.
Oh, okay.
I just thought, because when we used to produce shows at the Box, they'd be at 10:30 at night on a Saturday. We'd be done by midnight. Everybody would be like hyped. And so I lived in the neighborhood, so we would just have everybody over to the house, and then we would all pick up, like I had at the time like a little kid accordion and like little shaker eggs and that kind of stuff, and we would all just like pick up things and just organically start playing together and just like goofing around and making up songs. And it was like my favorite thing in the entire world, just to see all these comedians just kind of organically decide to do something else together. And so when we moved back from Brooklyn, because I couldn't have any instruments in Brooklyn, there's no space. We just bought all of it back. So Kelly bought me the guitar in Brooklyn. It was a gift, and then we moved with it. We bought the banjo when we got here because it was like none of our furniture was here, and we were bored. And then so she was like, "What if I'll buy you this and you can practice it?" And then the drum box came in during COVID, and I was like, "Eventually, someday." And then I had like a slide whistle, which is like one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I remember using it.
And then like things like little things, just so if like this happened the other night when we did the open mic on my balcony, where like people eventually kind of just hung out, and then people left, but Josh Fournier hung out, and then like I was like, "Oh, I've got a guitar," and he was like, "What? And do you know he can play the guitar?"
Yeah.
So well, yeah, and so it was wild, and so that was one of those things where I was like, "It's happening, we're doing it, people come
Bringing it back, yeah. And that's what I love too. They describe it. A lot of comedians describe it as the hang.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
After everything, you just hang out and just have a good time with your fellow comedians, and that's a cool experience too. It's just like, hey, we're all playing an instrument together or something.
Yeah.
So that's dope to think about. Or like anything, like usually when we do Monday open mics, they'll come here and they're like, we'll have some drinks. People are playing the PlayStation.
Yeah.
We're just talking, just getting to know each other better, and in a weird way that kind of helps us develop our comedy skills as much too, because we're like, yeah, I get to talk to you, get to analyze some of my jokes, but hey, what did you think about me saying this, or like, did you even hear me say any of it? Like, it's cool to find out what hits and what doesn't, and the aspect of the comedians being there is cool.
Yeah.
The hang has always been a cool experience that I never really got to experience with the music scene.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and that's the thing too, like in New York, there's something very aggressive about the way the hang happens, where it's like you have to go show face at things, and you have to like that, I don't know, I'm really missed about being here in Albuquerque, so it's nice to be back and have that thriving.
Yeah. Let's go back to this comments. Odin, family values tour used to be the shit. And then Gabriel Chavez, like the chocolate starfish.
That's the one with break stuff on it.
Yeah, that was actually a good song. I love the video too, because you got like everybody on it. It's like, holy shit, how do you know all these people? Yeah, that's so crazy. Sarah, we've actually been here for an hour and a half now.
Oh, well, heck.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Give a couple of shout outs and let people know where they can find you. Like, where are some things that you do? Where can they find you?
Yeah.
The Twitter accounts, the Googs. Give it a Goog.
You can go to my website, please. It's just Sarah, SARAHK comedy.com, and then that's how you find all my socials, because I was an early adopter of both Twitter and Instagram, and so my handles for those are gnarly. I never thought I would ever have to say them out loud on a podcast, and now every podcast I'm on, I'm like, why did I pick that as my name? And then I changed it about like 5 years ago to something that I was like, this is easier, this is Sarah in comedy or whatever, and then it's Sarah K, SARAHK, and then the rest of the word comedy, it's Sarah Comedy, but with a K. Like, do you see how hard this is to explain? It's Sarah Comedy, but it's with
a K
instead of a C.
Okay, Sarah Comedy with a K.
It's awful.
because I'm thinking that you're like saying Sarah, my last name, initial, and then spell comedy without the K, because you spell comedy.
Right.
But it's technically Sarah Comedy with a K.
With a K.
Yeah.
Dumb. There's a girl beat me to Sarah K Comedy, and I sometimes get tagged in her posts, and I'm like, just my name.
That was funny too, because I used to do a segment where we just Googled your name and see what would come up, and there were some interesting things with some people, but yeah. So she would probably would have took your Sarah Kennedy and just be like, that bitch again.
There's this really cool YouTube, and so if we're doing shout outs right now, I'm gonna plug something that is not even mine, but I found it yesterday, and I kind of think it'd be a really fun party, or I want to turn it into some sort of show or a bit or something. But this guy has people send him pictures. They're like portraits from when they were like little, not even portraits. They're like out like on vacations or whatever. And then through context clues in the picture, he finds the exact location that the picture was taken, like even from the angle. And so he'll like look at the picture and I'll be like, oh, what's that sign say? Well, can we see what that street name is? Or what what direction are the trees with the shadows pointing, and where are the mountains here? And then like, okay, let's open up Google Earth, and then he like zooms in.
He's analyzing the whole thing.
Yeah, and then he's like, he never misses. He gets it every single time, and I just think it'd be such a fun. I know that's a very nerdy party to throw, but it'd be really fun to have everybody like show up and then just be like, "Here's your picture," and then everybody goes, "I think I found it."
Scavenger search.
Yeah, exactly.
Find a location. That's the worst too. Have you seen those videos where it's like Google Maps and then you go to this one location? It's like, holy shit, it's a dead body.
Yeah.
Those are so. I mean, let's see how fun this will be till that happens.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
Sarah, make sure to follow Sarah. All the stuff. Give that website one more time.
SarahKComedy.com.
And that's not the same as her Instagram.
You'll see all my Instagrams and stuff when you go to the website. Just go to the website. And then if you want to listen to my Taylor Swift podcast, it's called Taydar. And it's on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and everywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Nice. Sarah, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This is amazing.
Yeah, we got to have you back. I mean, we didn't, there's so much to talk about. Yeah. We didn't even get into anything. Mole people. They're out there.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
I've heard.
You guys are awesome.
Bye, y'all.
You guys know what to do. Just subscribe, follow, like. MuseMe TV, guys. Peace. Because I don't have no intro music or outro.